The Facebook notification came at 9:42 p.m. on a Thursday. I was sitting on my couch in Portland, halfway through a bowl of cereal when I saw the post. My sister Natalie had tagged herself at a fancy restaurant downtown. The caption made my blood freeze. Celebrating new beginnings. House sold, fresh start loading. There were champagne glasses in the photo. Her husband Blake was smiling. And there, in the background, I could see the address on a document. 847 Oakwood Drive. My childhood home. Our childhood home. I stared at the screen until my eyes blurred. Sold. She had sold the house. The house where Mom raised us alone after Dad left. The house Mom left to both of us when she died 8 months ago. I hadn't signed anything. I hadn't agreed to anything. Yet somehow the house was gone. My hand started shaking. I set down my cereal. The milk turned warm and disgusting, but I couldn't move. I just kept staring at Natalie's smiling face, at the champagne, at the celebration of something she had stolen from me without even asking. I called Natalie the next morning. My voice came out steadier than I expected. She answered on the third ring, sounding cheerful and relaxed. "Hey, stranger." "What's up?" she said. "You sold the house," I said flatly. There was a pause. Not shock, just a slight delay, like she was choosing her words carefully. "Oh yeah, I was going to call you about that. It happened pretty fast. The buyers were really motivated, and I didn't want to lose them." "I didn't agree to sell," I said. She laughed, light and dismissive. "Come on, Quinn." We both knew it was sitting there empty. It was costing money every month. Taxes, insurance, utilities. Someone had to make a decision. "We're co-owners, Natalie. You can't just sell without my permission." "I handled it," she said, her tone sharpening. "You're all the way in Portland doing your thing. I'm here dealing with everything. The repairs, the cleanouts, the paperwork. You didn't want to be involved, so I took care of it. That's not the same as, 'Look, I'll send you your share, okay? Just give me a few weeks to sort out the expenses.' There were a lot of costs." Then she hung up. I sat there holding my phone, feeling like I'd been slapped. Within 2 days, the family group chat exploded. My Aunt Diane posted first. "So proud of Natalie for handling the estate so responsibly. Such a burden lifted." Then my cousin Foster chimed in. "Good for you, Nat. That house was just sitting there. Smart move." My Uncle Bernard added his approval. Finally someone with business sense in this family. I didn't respond. I watched the messages pile up, each one praising Natalie's decisiveness and maturity. No one mentioned me. No one asked if I had agreed. They just assumed that because Natalie was the older sister, because she lived in the same town as the house, because she was always the confident one, she had the right to make the decision alone. I felt invisible. When I finally typed a message asking about the sale, the chat went silent for an hour. Then Natalie responded. "Quinn's just upset because she wanted to keep the house forever for sentimental reasons. Sometimes we have to be practical." My aunt hearted the message. I closed the app and didn't open it again. The humiliation burned in my chest like acid. They had all chosen her story over mine without even asking for my side. That weekend, I drove down to Sacramento. It took 7 hours. I didn't tell Natalie I was coming. I went straight to the house. The for sale sign was gone, replaced by a sold banner. I sat in my car across the street and just looked at it. The blue shutters Mom painted the summer I turned 12. The oak tree in the front yard where Natalie and I used to climb. The porch where Mom used to sit with her coffee every morning, watching the neighborhood wake up. This wasn't just property. This was where Mom taught me to ride a bike. Where she stayed up late helping me with math homework. Where she held me when I cried about my first breakup. Natalie had lived here too, but she left for college and never really came back. She visited for holidays, stayed a few days, then returned to her apartment downtown. I was the one who stayed. I was the one who helped Mom with groceries when she got sick, who drove her to appointments, who sat with her in the hospital at the end. This house held my entire history, and Natalie had erased it with a signature. It started 2 years before Mom died. Mom had a stroke. Not a big one, but scary enough that she couldn't live alone anymore. Natalie and I met at the hospital to discuss options. "We should sell the house," Natalie said immediately. "Get her into assisted living. Split the money. I looked at Mom's chart, at the doctor's notes about recovery and physical therapy. She's coming home, I said. She wants to be in her own house. Natalie rolled her eyes. That's not practical, Quinn. Who's going to take care of her? You. Yes, I said. I'll move back. Natalie stared at me like I was insane. You're going to give up your job and your apartment to play nurse? She's our mother. And she'll be fine in a facility. They have professionals. You're being dramatic. But I wasn't being dramatic. I was being a daughter. So I moved back to Sacramento. I rented out my Portland apartment and moved into Mom's house. I became her caregiver. Natalie visited twice in 2 years, on Christmas and on Mom's birthday. Each time, she stayed less than 4 hours. She never offered to help. She never offered to pay for anything. She just showed up, took photos, posted them online, and left. 3 months before Mom died, she called me into her bedroom. She looked tired but alert. I need to talk to you about the will, she said. Okay, I said, sitting on the edge of her bed. I updated it last year, she said slowly. After the stroke. I wanted to make sure everything was clear. What do you mean? She looked uncomfortable. I know you and Natalie are different. I know you've given up a lot to be here. And I know she hasn't helped much. I didn't say anything. Mom continued. The house goes to both of you equally when I'm gone. That's fair. But there's a clause in the will that protects you. Protects me how? If either of you wants to sell, the other has to agree. In writing. And if there's a dispute, the decision goes to whoever lived here with me during my final years. That's you, Quinn. I felt something tighten in my chest. Why would you do that? Because I know Natalie, Mom said quietly. She's impulsive. She makes decisions fast without thinking about consequences. I don't want her to pressure you into selling if you're not ready. I hugged her. I thought the clause was just Mom being cautious. I didn't think it would ever matter. I was wrong. After the funeral, Natalie mentioned selling immediately. We should list it soon, she said while we were sorting through Mom's things. The market's good right now. I'm not ready to sell, I said. She looked annoyed. It's just the house, Quinn. It's Mom's house. Mom's gone. It's our house now. And it's worth money. I took a breath. Can we wait a few months? I need time. She shrugged. Fine. But don't drag this out forever. I thought that was the end of it. I went back to Portland, back to my job, back to my life. Natalie stayed in Sacramento and promised to check on the house occasionally. I paid half the property taxes, half the insurance, half the utilities to keep the pipes from freezing. For 6 months, I heard nothing. Then I saw the Facebook post. She had sold it without telling me, without asking, without my signature, and yet somehow legally it had happened. I didn't understand how, but I knew someone who would. I pulled out my phone and called Oliver Walsh, the lawyer who had handled Mom's estate. I need to see the will, I said. Right now. Oliver's office smelled like coffee and old paper. He was a kind man in his 60s with silver hair and glasses that slid down his nose. He pulled Mom's file from a cabinet and laid it on his desk. What's going on, Quinn? He asked. I told him everything. The sale. The Facebook post. Natalie's dismissive phone call. The family taking her side. Oliver frowned. Did you sign a consent form? No. Did you receive any proceeds from the sale? Not a cent. He opened the will and flipped through the pages. Then he stopped. His eyebrows went up. Did Natalie know about the protection clause? I don't know. Maybe. Mom might have told her. Because if she sold without your written consent, Oliver said slowly, the sale is invalid. My heart started pounding. What does that mean? It means legally, the house still belongs to both of you. The buyer doesn't have clear title, and Natalie committed fraud. I sat back in my chair. Fraud. She misrepresented ownership. She signed documents claiming sole authority to sell. That's fraudulent conveyance. I felt dizzy, not from shock, but from the sudden weight of power shifting into my hands. What do I do? I asked. Oliver looked at me seriously. You could file a lawsuit, void the sale, force her to return any money she received. But that's nuclear, Quinn. That's family destruction. She already destroyed it, I said quietly. He nodded. Then we moved forward. But we do it carefully. I didn't confront Natalie. Not yet. Oliver told me to gather evidence first, so I did. I logged into the county assessor's website and pulled the property records. The sale had closed 2 weeks ago for $580,000. The deed listed only Natalie's name as the seller, not mine. That was the first red flag. Then I accessed the email account Mom and I had shared for estate business. Natalie didn't know I still had the password. Inside, I found everything. The listing agreement Natalie had signed alone. The purchase contract with only her signature. The closing documents where she had represented herself as the sole owner. She had lied to the title company. She had lied to the buyers. She had lied to everyone. And at the bottom of one email, I found the bank transfer confirmation. Natalie had received the full $580,000 minus closing costs. The net was $547,000. She had deposited it into her personal account. My half, $273,500, was gone. Stolen. I screenshot everything. I downloaded every file. I saved them in 3 places. Then I closed the laptop and sat in the dark. I wasn't angry anymore. I was surgical. Cold. Focused. Natalie thought I was weak. She thought I would just accept this. She was about to learn how wrong she was. I read Mom's will again that night. Every word. Every clause. Every condition. The protection clause was on page 7. In the event that either co-owner wishes to sell the property located at 847 Oakwood Drive, written consent must be obtained from both parties. In case of dispute, final decision authority shall rest with the co-owner who resided with the deceased during the final 2 years of life, defined here as the primary resident. I was the primary resident. That meant even if Natalie had asked me and I said no, my decision would have been final. But she hadn't asked. She had just acted. And in doing so, she had triggered the exact protection Mom had put in place. I thought about Mom writing this. I thought about her lying in that hospital bed, weak but clear-minded, making sure I would be protected. She had known Natalie would do this. She had seen it coming years before it happened. And she had given me the tools to fight back. I wouldn't waste them. The next morning, I called Oliver. File the lawsuit, I said. All of it. Void the sale. Demand restitution. I want everything. Are you sure? He asked. Completely. Oliver filed the complaint on a Monday morning. By Tuesday afternoon, Natalie knew. She called me 17 times. I didn't answer. Then she sent a text. What the hell did you do? I replied calmly. I'm protecting my legal rights. Another text came immediately. You're insane. I'm enforcing Mom's will. Then my phone rang. It was Blake, Natalie's husband. I answered. Quinn, what is going on? He said. His voice was tight, confused. Your wife sold a house she didn't have the authority to sell, I said. Now she's being held accountable. She said you agreed. I never agreed. I never signed anything. She lied. There was a long pause. The money's already spent, Quinn. We bought a new house. We can't just give it back. Something cold settled in my chest. That's not my problem, Blake. You're going to destroy your own sister over this? She destroyed herself. I hung up. 2 hours later, Oliver called. They want to meet. Natalie, Blake, and their lawyer. They're asking for mediation. No mediation, I said. This goes to court. Quinn, are you sure? Mediation could. She had 6 months to talk to me. She chose to steal instead. We're done talking. Oliver was quiet for a moment. Then he said, understood. I'll see you in court. 2 weeks later, Natalie threw a party. I only knew because my cousin Foster posted about it. Big celebration at Natalie and Blake's new place. So proud of them. The photos showed a beautiful modern house with floor-to-ceiling windows, expensive furniture, a chef's kitchen, a backyard with a pool. She had bought it with my money. With the house Mom left us. With the home I had sacrificed 2 years of my life to protect. And she was celebrating it. In the comments, family members cheered her on. Aunt Diane, gorgeous. You deserve this. Uncle Bernard, smart investments pay off. My stomach turned. They had no idea what she had done. Or maybe they did and they just didn't care. That Saturday, Natalie hosted a housewarming. She sent me an invitation through the family group chat. Everyone's invited. Come see the new place. I didn't respond. But I did something else. I drove to Sacramento again. I parked down the street from her new house. I watched the cars arrive, the family members carrying gifts and bottles of wine. I watched them walk through the front door of a house built on theft. And I waited. After an hour, I got out of my car and walked to the door. I rang the bell. Natalie opened the door. Her smile froze when she saw me. "Quinn," she said, "what are you doing here?" "You invited me," I said calmly. "Can I come in?" She hesitated, then stepped aside. The house was full of people. Music played softly. Everyone turned to look at me. Aunt Diane approached first, her arms open for a hug. "Quinn, sweetie, we've missed you. Isn't this place amazing?" "It's beautiful," I said. I looked around, at the granite countertops, the hardwood floors, the custom lighting. "Natalie's done so well for herself," Uncle Bernard said, raising his glass. "Smart girl. Knew when to make a move." I smiled. Yes, she's very decisive. Natalie was watching me from across the room, her expression tight. Blake stood next to her, looking uncomfortable. I walked through the party, complimenting the furniture, admiring the decor, acting like everything was normal. I let Natalie think I had given up. Let her think I was accepting defeat. After an hour, I left quietly. I got in my car and drove back to Portland. And the whole way, I thought about how Mom used to say that patience was the most powerful weapon you could have. I was starting to understand what she meant. 3 weeks later, the cracks started to show. It began with a call from the buyers, the people who had purchased 847 Oakwood Drive. They had received a letter from Oliver notifying them of the legal dispute. They were furious. Their lawyer contacted Natalie, demanding answers. Why hadn't she disclosed the co-ownership? Why was there no consent from the other owner? Why had the title company missed this? Natalie tried to smooth it over, but the buyers weren't interested in excuses. They wanted their money back or clear title, and they wanted it fast. Then the title company got involved. They launched an investigation into how the sale had been approved without proper documentation. The agent who had handled the closing was suspended. Natalie was asked to provide proof of my consent. She couldn't, because it didn't exist. My Aunt Diane called me. "Quinn, what's happening?" "Natalie says there's some kind of legal mix-up with the house." "It's not a mix-up," I said. "She sold the house without my permission." Silence. Then, carefully, she said, "You knew." "I didn't." She lied. More silence. "Are you sure?" Maybe there was a miscommunication. "Aunt Diane, I never signed anything. I never agreed to sell." She committed fraud. I heard her take a breath. "Well, maybe you two can work this out privately. Families shouldn't fight like this." "She started it," I said. "I'm just finishing it." She hung up. The deposition was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. Oliver had prepared me for weeks. Stay calm. Answer only what's asked. Don't volunteer information. Let the facts speak. We sat in a conference room at Oliver's office. Natalie was across the table with her lawyer, a sharp-looking woman named Angela Price. Blake sat next to Natalie, looking miserable. The court reporter set up her machine. Oliver started. "Ms. Brooks, did you obtain written consent from your sister, Quinn, before selling the property at 847 Oakwood Drive?" Natalie's jaw tightened. "I told her I was selling." "That's not what I asked. Did you obtain written consent?" "No." "Did you inform the title company that the property was co-owned?" "I assumed they would check the records." "But you signed documents representing yourself as the sole owner, correct?" "I managed the property. I handled everything." Oliver slid a document across the table. "This is the deed. It lists both you and Quinn as co-owners. You were aware of this, weren't you?" Natalie's face flushed. "Yes. And yet you proceeded with the sale without your sister's knowledge or consent." She was difficult to reach. "That's not what phone records show," Oliver said calmly. He placed another document on the table. "Your phone records indicate 0 calls to Quinn in the 3 months prior to the sale." Natalie went silent. Her lawyer whispered something to her, but she didn't respond. She just stared at the table. 2 days after the deposition, Oliver called me. His voice was different, lighter. "Quinn, Natalie's lawyer just contacted me. They want to settle." I felt my pulse quicken. "What are they offering?" $273,500. Your full half of the proceeds. Plus they'll pay your legal fees. I sat down. And what do they want from me? They want you to agree to void the sale quietly. Let the buyers keep the house. Essentially, you'd be retroactively consenting to the sale as if it had been legitimate from the start. I thought about that. About Natalie keeping her new house. About the family never knowing what she did. About letting her off the hook. No, I said. Oliver paused. Quinn, it's a fair offer. You'd get your money back. It's not about the money anymore, I said. It's about the principle. She stole from me. She lied to everyone. And she only wants to settle now because she's cornered. I want this on the record. I want everyone to know what she did. If we go to trial, it'll be public. Your family will see everything. Good, I said. Let them. Oliver exhaled slowly. Then he said, all right, I'll tell them we're proceeding to court. 2 weeks later, the trial date was set. And that's when the family really started to turn. The messages started flooding in. First from Aunt Diane. Quinn, please. You're tearing this family apart. Can't you just take the money and move on? Then Uncle Bernard. This is embarrassing for everyone. You're making us all look bad. Handle this privately. My cousin Foster was more direct. You're being vindictive. Natalie made a mistake, but you're destroying her on purpose. I responded to none of them. But Natalie responded for me. She posted in the family group chat. I tried to make this right. I offered Quinn everything she's asking for. But she wants to humiliate me. She wants revenge. That's what this is really about. The reactions came fast. Aunt Diane so sad. Foster. Quinn's always been jealous of you, not Uncle Bernard. Some people just can't let go of grudges. I watched it happen in real time. The narrative shifting. The villain becoming the victim. Natalie wasn't the thief anymore. I was the bitter sister who refused to forgive. I was the one causing pain. I almost laughed, because they still didn't understand. This wasn't revenge. This was justice. And justice doesn't apologize. The trial was 3 weeks away. Oliver sent me the witness list, the buyers, the title agent, a handwriting expert to confirm I hadn't signed the consent, and one more name, Blake, Natalie's husband. He was testifying against her. The trial lasted 2 days. The courtroom was small, wood-paneled, and smelled like floor polish. I sat next to Oliver at the plaintiff's table. Natalie sat across from us with Angela Price. Blake wasn't in the room. He was being kept separate as a witness. Oliver presented the facts methodically. The co-ownership, the lack of consent, the forged documents, the title company's negligence. The buyers testified first. They explained how they had trusted the sale was legitimate, how they had poured their savings into the purchase, how they now faced losing their home because of Natalie's fraud. Then the handwriting expert took the stand. She showed side-by-side comparisons of my signature on my driver's license, on old checks, on the will, and on the fraudulent consent form. They didn't match. It was obvious. Even Angela Price didn't challenge it aggressively. Then Blake was called. He walked to the stand slowly, avoiding Natalie's eyes. Oliver asked him directly, Mr. Foster, did your wife tell you she had obtained consent from her sister before selling the property? Blake's voice was quiet. No. She told me the house was hers to sell. She said Quinn had signed everything over months ago. Did you ever see proof of this? No. I trusted her. When did you learn the truth? Blake finally looked at Natalie. His expression was pain. When the lawsuit was filed. That's when I realized she had lied. Angela had no questions. Blake left the stand. The courtroom was silent. The judge's ruling came the next morning. I sat next to Oliver, my hands folded in my lap, my breathing steady. The judge was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a calm voice. She read from her notes. The evidence presented is clear and unambiguous. The defendant, Natalie Brooks, sold jointly owned property without obtaining the required consent from her co-owner. She misrepresented ownership to the title company and the buyers. This constitutes fraudulent conveyance. Natalie's head dropped. The sale is hereby declared void. The property will be returned to joint ownership of both parties. The defendant is ordered to return all proceeds received, totaling $547,000, to the plaintiff within 30 days. Additionally, the defendant will pay the plaintiff's legal fees in full. Oliver squeezed my hand gently. I didn't react. I just listened. Furthermore, the judge continued, this court recognizes the protection clause outlined in the decedent's will. As the primary resident, the plaintiff has final decision authority regarding the disposition of said property. The gavel fell. It was over. I had won. Completely. Natalie sat frozen. Angela whispered something to her, but she didn't move. Blake wasn't in the courtroom. I later learned he had filed for divorce the night before. I walked out into the hallway. The sunlight coming through the windows felt warm and clean. Oliver smiled at me. You did it, Quinn. No, I said. Mom did it. I just followed through. The house sat empty for 3 more months while Natalie scrambled to return the money. She had to sell her new house, the beautiful modern place with the pool and the chef's kitchen. She sold it at a loss. The market had shifted. She barely made enough to cover what she owed me plus the legal fees. Blake left her. The divorce was quick and clean. He wanted nothing from her. My Aunt Diane stopped speaking to me. So did Uncle Bernard and Foster. They said I had destroyed Natalie over pride. They said family should forgive. I didn't argue with them. I just let them go. Because here's what they didn't understand. This was never about the house. It was about being seen. For 2 years, I put my life on hold to take care of Mom. I gave up my job, my apartment, my independence. I did it because I loved her. Not because I expected anything in return, but because it was right. And Natalie took that sacrifice and turned it into an opportunity. She saw my kindness as weakness. She saw my absence as permission to steal. Mom knew that would happen. That's why she put the protection clause in the will. Not to punish Natalie, but to protect me. To make sure that after everything I gave, I wouldn't lose even more. The house wasn't just property. It was proof that my sacrifices mattered. That my love was worth something. That I was worth something. Natalie tried to erase that, and I refused to let her. I sold the house 6 months later. On my terms, I interviewed buyers carefully. I chose a young family with 2 kids, a couple who reminded me of the way Mom used to talk about building a life. I sold it for $605,000. The market had recovered. After closing costs, I walked away with $287,000. I paid off my student loans, all $34,000 of them gone in one transfer. I bought a small house in Portland. Nothing fancy, just a 2-bedroom bungalow with a garden and a porch. It was mine, fully, completely. No co-owners, no strings, no ghosts. I donated $10,000 to the hospice center where Mom spent her final days. I put another $50,000 into savings, and the rest I invested, not in property or stocks, but in myself. I went back to school. I had always wanted to study architecture. Mom used to say I had an eye for design, for understanding how spaces could make people feel safe. Now I had the time and money to actually do it. I enrolled in a program. I studied. I built models of houses that didn't exist yet, but could. And every time I sat at my drafting table, I thought about Mom, about the home she built for us, about the protection she left behind, about how love, real love, doesn't just give, it defends. Natalie moved to Arizona. I heard it through the family grapevine. She got a job in sales. Nothing glamorous. She lived in a rental apartment, alone. Blake had remarried. I saw his wedding photos online. He looked happy, lighter, free. The family stayed fractured. Aunt Diane sent me a Christmas card the first year after the trial, but nothing inside it. Just her signature. Uncle Bernard didn't acknowledge me at all. Foster unfriended me on social media. I didn't chase them. I didn't send explanations or defend myself. I just let them believe whatever story made them comfortable. Because the people who loved me didn't need an explanation. And the people who needed an explanation didn't love me. One afternoon, a year after the trial, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just my name and address in handwriting I recognized. I opened it carefully. Inside was a single piece of paper. It said, "I'm sorry." That was all. No explanation. No excuses. Just 2 words. I read it 3 times. Then I folded it back up, put it in a drawer, and closed it. I didn't respond. Because sorry doesn't undo theft. It doesn't rebuild trust. It doesn't give back the months of stress and heartbreak and betrayal. Sorry is a word people say when they've lost and they want something back. I didn't need her sorry. I needed her gone. And she was. 2 years after the trial, I graduated from my architecture program. I stood on a stage in a black gown and received my certificate. The auditorium was full of families cheering. I sat alone in the audience afterward, watching other graduates hug their parents and take photos. I thought about Mom, about how proud she would have been, about how she would have cried and told everyone in the room that I was her daughter. I missed her so much it hurt, but I also felt her presence, in the quiet, in the knowledge that I had honored her wishes, in the fact that I was sitting there at all, free and educated and whole, because she had protected me even after she was gone. I started my own small firm a few months later, residential design. I specialized in homes for single parents and small families, people who needed space that felt safe and intentional. My first client was a woman named Iris. She was a widow with 2 kids. She wanted to renovate her late husband's house but didn't know where to start. I helped her turn it into something new, something that honored the past but didn't live in it. When the project was done, she cried. "It feels like home again," she said. That's when I knew I was doing the right work. Not just designing buildings, but helping people reclaim space that had been taken from them, helping them rebuild. Last month, I went back to Sacramento, not to see family, not to visit the old neighborhood, just to drive past 847, Oakwood Drive one more time. The house looked different. The new family had painted the shutters white. They had added a swing set in the backyard. The garden was full of flowers. It looked loved. I sat in my car across the street, the same spot I had parked in years before when I first learned Natalie had sold it. Back then, I felt powerless, erased, invisible. Now I felt nothing but peace. This house didn't belong to me anymore. But it also didn't belong to the version of me that needed it to feel whole. I had built something better, something no one could take. I drove away slowly, watching the house disappear in my rearview mirror. I thought about all the versions of myself that had lived there. The child, the teenager, the caregiver, the daughter who stayed when everyone else left. They were all still there in the walls, in the memories. But I didn't need to live there anymore to carry them. They lived in me. And I had finally learned the most important lesson Mom left behind. You don't fight for things because you're bitter. You fight for things because you know your worth. And when people try to take what's yours, you don't apologize for defending it. You stand firm. You protect yourself. And you walk away with your head high. I'm 34 now. I live in a house I bought with money I earned and inherited fairly. I run a business I built from nothing. I have friends who see me, really see me, not as a resource or a backup plan, but as a person. I don't talk to Natalie. I don't talk to most of my family. And I'm okay with that. Because I learned that being alone is not the same as being abandoned. Sometimes being alone just means you refuse to shrink yourself to fit into spaces that were too small for you. Sometimes it means you chose yourself. Last week, I received an email from a lawyer in Arizona. The subject line read, "Estate Planning Inquiry." Inside, it said that Natalie had listed me as a beneficiary in her will. It asked if I would accept the designation. I stared at the email for a long time. Then I replied with one word. No. I didn't need her apology. I didn't need her money. I didn't need anything from her at all. I closed my laptop. I poured a glass of wine. I sat on my porch and watched the sun set over Portland. The sky turned orange and pink and gold, and I thought about how far I had come from that night 2 years ago when I saw the Facebook post and felt my world collapse. I wasn't that person anymore. I was stronger, wiser, free. I had won, not because I destroyed Natalie, but because I refused to be destroyed. And that, I realized, was the quietest, most powerful victory of all.